So last time we played with files. I want to go ahead and create another new project here. I want to leave that out there, let you be able to see that on its own. So another Java, basic Java application. We're not going to build any GUIs yet. We'll come back to that later. So this one is going to be a writing demo. We're going to write to files now. So I'm starting with a main application. What we're going to do later on is we're going to take this and we're going to reuse this logic in a little bit better formation. But again, start simple. Just get something working. So we can start with a file here. If you want to, you can create a file, which is your test writer, or whatever you want it to be. And I do want to go this time just to kind of reemphasize one little point. New file. The files show up in this folder. Like if you remember when we looked at the file demo, you can't see it here, but it shows up inside of the file we just created. So I'm going to create a file that we're going to do, which is people.txt. Now I may give it a .text extension for the reason that I want it to open up easily in a text editor. I want to be able to identify it as a text file. You can any extension you want to. There's no limitations on it. You could do it people.ppl. You can do 1.ppl. You can do anything you want to. And as far as the extension goes on here, there's no limitations inside of there. Now let me import this control space java.io.file. There you go. All right. And so now we want to write to a file. Now in the discussion board, you're going to be asked to research some of the things you can write to. In the class, in the lecture time, we looked at the file writer. I want to show you another one called a buffered writer inside of there. And so the buffered writer, you can name the variable anything you want to. I like to call it out because it's a simple, easy to remember name. New buffered writer. All right, and for that we need to have another writer. Okay, so wait a minute, that's not a file. How do I get a file? Well, in order to open a file, I need some sort of file opener. So inside of here, I need a file writer. So why don't I create one of these real quick? And I am actually going to create this separately so we can see the pieces a little bit easier. So I can create a file writer. Control space. There's a file writer. And this is fout, just for a different variable name inside of there, equals new file writer. And so you can see here, I can give it a file descriptor, a string, a file, and then whether I'm going to append it or not, and then the file name and whether I'm going to append it or not. All right, so I'm going to start with just a basic file, and I'm going to hand it the test writer that I just created here. So the file I just created, I'm going to hand to a file writer. Now, why would I care about a buffered writer when I have a file writer here? Well, let's create it so we can see inside of here. All right, and so now I have a little exception stuff to deal with. Unreported exception, IO exception. When I go to open up a file to write with, if that file is already being used by somebody else, then it might get rejected. So I have to deal with this as a scenario. So I need to Alt-Enter, Alt-Enter. And I'm going to do the throws clause right here. We'll deal with try-catch stuff later on. We're going to keep it simple for now. So what's the difference between fout and out? So if I look at the options here, you can see I have a number of write methods. So I can write an array of characters, a string, or some portion of a string, a single integer, array of characters there, a string, so all these write methods. So if I wanted to write to this, I can write to the file test. Test. And I can actually do this. Or I can do to the out, that buffered writer. You can see there's write methods inside of here as well, but more importantly, there's a new line method that shows up here. So within fout, you can see there is no new line method. So the subtle difference between these two is, in the first one, if you want to put things between your two of them, you have to do the writing the new line character yourself. If you do that, you have to understand what the operating system you're running on uses as the new line character. If it's Windows, it does one thing. If it's Mac, it does another thing. If it's Unix, it does another thing. Or you can use the buffered writer, where Java, somebody who's written this class, has told you what the writer is for that, what you can write out to. So that's pretty nice. I can simplify it right there. And since I wrap these two guys up. I don't have to use F out here. I can use just a regular right here. So I can actually forget about this F out right here. And what you'll see most of the time is this code right here would actually be placed inside of here. So I would never have F out as a value. I would actually create this and put it directly inside of here. Like this. Oops, there. Like this. And you never have that. So this is the way you most commonly would see this. So what's happening is I open up a file. I open up a file to write as characters, the file writer. The buffered writer then takes anything that writes as characters and allows you to deal with new line characters. And it'll customize that based off of the formats you're going to be using. All right. And so now I have this up and ready. I can actually run this code and it doesn't do anything interesting. But if I go look at my files over here underneath my writing demo, I have people.txt. And there's nothing in it. Well, wait, I just wrote something to it. Let me run it again. Yeah, there's nothing in it. What the heck happened? Well, if you are opening up Microsoft Word and you write something into it and then you close it, is there going to be something into it next time you open it? Well, you say, yeah, there is, because it's going to prompt you that you need to save it. And Java is much the same way here. If you want to save something inside of here, I have to at least close my file. Okay, that wraps it up. That does everything there. So when I run this again, now when I come out to people.txt, you can see it says test. Run again, it says test. Run again, it says test. Wait a minute. What's it doing? Well, here, let's put something in here. I am not writing again. Right? So I saved that. You can see it's in there. If I close this file, I reopen this file, I'm not writing again. If I run it, hey, where did that go? I just wrote that. What happened? Well, what it's doing is it's overwriting that file every single time. If you remember from the lecture, when I write inside of here, let me close that one. When I write inside of here, I open up the file every single time and write over what's the contents. And so if I want it to append, then I have to come into this place where I open the file and say true. So the file writer, I give it a file and I give it a boolean that says true, please append to this file. All right. So now when I run it, people.txt, every single time I run it, I will add in another of these items. All right, so let me real quick delete everything inside this file, save it up real quick. So empty file. Just to show you, if I take out this new line inside of here, why the buffered writer is really important inside of here, I run it, I say test, I run it, I get test, 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 test all on one line. So that is why let me save this again. That is why the new line is essential inside of here. That's why I want the buffered writer, is because otherwise I don't end up putting it on its own line each time. All right, so this is the foundation of writing. It doesn't really take us all the way of what we need to do for here. We need to be able to manage writing more interesting stuff. And so we're going to look at that here in a second. But at least we know if we have a file, we can open it up to write, and we can write text out to the file. The next trick is how do I format that data so it's an interesting way and easy to be able to read it back out. That's what we're going to look at next time.